It is great being here with 3 other colleagues, and we are the largest Irish delegation here in the European Parliament. It's great having company, and we're able to cover a wide range of committees, 10 committees in total. The 3 committees that I will be focusing on will be civil liberties, particularly around fundamental rights, human rights, and the importance of that for our peace process. Regional development will be looking at cross-border activity and structural funds, and also constitutional affairs. Constitutional affairs will allow me to make sure that the North is represented in the event of Britain deciding to leave the EU and the implications of that for the North. Primarily, I have also received the chair of the Palestinian delegation, and that's going to be crucially important, particularly what's happening at the moment in Palestine. I'm going to hand you over now to Matt, who's going to explain the committees he's on.
I think it's a sign of the strength of Sinn Féin that we secured places on each of the committees that we were seeking. For my part, I am now a member of the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee and the Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee, and they're 2 very important committees for Ireland as a whole, but particularly for the constituency that I represent. So, for example, on the Agriculture and Rural Development Committee, I'm going to be using my influence on that committee to try and deliver a fair deal for Irish farmers, try and ensure that rural communities receive supports in terms of investment and initiatives at the European level. And then crucially on the Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee, I'm going to be doing everything in my power to raise at every single opportunity the need for full recapitalisation of Irish banks. We need the €70 billion of Irish taxpayers' money that was taken and pumped into the European banking system. We need that brought back to our community so that we can invest it in jobs and infrastructure so that we can keep our young people at home in Ireland.
Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic really in terms of the committees. There's quite a good symbiotic relationship between all of the committees because they tend to overlap. Comisha are trí chuiste. I'm on the Budgets Committee and I'm on the Cultural and Education Committee, and I'm also on the Fisheries Committee, which obviously for our Irish fishermen and our coastal communities who are suffering dreadfully at the moment and have been doing so for many, many years. I'm delighted to be championing their cause and getting stuck into that. I suppose really in terms of the Budgets Committee, it's quite a heavy workload, but it's good because you get to see where the actual money is going and what monies are allocated to the various portfolios. And then the Culture and Education Committee definitely will be concentrating on language and on trying to create initiatives that are going to create employment in the cultural creative industries. So Sinead Muchuid from a Súl Gomorlish, agus Sinead.
And for myself, I'm going to be sitting on the Employment and Social Affairs Committee and the Environmental and Public Health Committee. For me, during the election campaign, we constantly talked about the need for stimulus to deal with the unemployment crisis that's in Ireland, particularly among young people. So I'm going to be challenging on that committee to have a proper youth guarantee that's properly funded with achievable goals, and also to address the inequalities in society. We've seen since the crisis that the inequality in Ireland is widening. We're now the 4th most unequal country in the OECD, and we need to address that by taking a change of direction in Europe. So I look forward to raising these issues on that committee. In terms of the environment and public health, I bring to that committee my experience as an ecologist and also my role in Safe Foods, where I was chair up until being elected. So it's crucial. Ireland is a food producing country, so we need to actually have somebody monitoring all of the implications for the food industry coming out of that committee.
Time would not permit us to go through all the activity that we've been involved in since coming out here a few weeks ago, but just to give you a snapshot particularly of this week. Obviously there have been millions on the street protesting because of what's happening in Gaza. So we've had press conferences, we're going out to a protest now, we're going to be speaking about the situation in Gaza when we go into the chamber later this evening. Tomorrow, myself and Lynn and Leah will be leaving here and travelling to Luxembourg, where we have a meeting secured with Jonathan Taylor, the Vice President of the European Investment Bank. Our manifesto pledged that we would look at particularly the opportunities that exist for Ireland North and South to draw down European funding, and the fact that the Irish government hasn't maximised that opportunity, and that in the North the Executive cannot draw down the funding because it is banned. Thirdly, we have been doing a lot of work in relation to the different areas of the committee and getting reports. For instance, legal highs is one of the issues that I will be taking forward in the weeks and months ahead.
Well, I've had a very busy week as I'm the rapporteur on the European Globalisation Fund, which is in the Budget Committee. I've been very vocal on this throughout the campaign because Ireland has a dreadful track record on drawing down on those funds, and actually quite a lot of the money goes back. So really, in terms of power and influence that I have in that is quite good, because I'm arguing for more regional autonomy in terms of the Globalisation Fund, and also an increase in terms of accessibility of how it's drawn down. So that's been quite challenging, to say the least, and I'm starting to get a real grow for figures. So that's my lot. Obviously, culture and education has also, and the fisheries. There's so much going on, really. It's very hard to give it in brief to you guys at home, but Sinead and Seachtain ar fad sátile budgets agus iascrí.
If I was to outline 3 issues that have been involved in, firstly, obviously it's been very important to use the opportunities that we've had to outline the impact that the austerity agenda has had on our communities, and I've had an opportunity to do that in a plenary session directly to members of the European Council. I've also been working very closely with Martina and others in relation to issues affecting agriculture, particularly the beef sector at the moment, and the issue of nomadic cattle and the barriers that have been put in place affecting cross-border trade in Ireland have been issues that we've been raising both here in the Parliament and at home. I've also been working with colleagues here from across member states in opposition to the TTIP, the US-EU trade negotiations that are taking place that have the potential to absolutely devastate Irish infrastructure. And of course I've been using my work on committees and by networking with groups to argue for an infrastructure investment package so that we can start to deliver what we have been given a mandate to, and that's investment for infrastructure in our communities to create the jobs that will keep our young people in Ireland.
As for myself, I've participated in a youth group panel, so discussing the priorities for the next 5 years for young people, and the main topic on that panel was the need to address the youth unemployment. So I used the opportunity today to speak on the youth guarantee and the need for decent work for young people and paid apprenticeships from the plenary. So my first speech was addressing that issue. I've also secured 15 MEPs from all of the representatives from all of the groups across the European Parliament to sign up to a declaration calling for the release of the Irish citizen Ibrahim Halawa, who is currently being held in an Egyptian prison for almost a year without charges. So it's been great to get the support from across the different parties and different countries for that issue. And also I am going to be working on a report coming out of the Environment and Public Health Committee, which will deal with novel foods. So that would address the issues of cloning coming into the food market and areas like that. So I look forward to working on that in the next coming months.
In the months and years ahead, the 4 of us will sit around this table. We will regularly give you, the people who supported us and voted for us, an update about our work programme, and you will judge for yourself whether we as Sinn Féin MEPs are working and standing up and delivering for you. Go míle maith agah go léir.